just identified soybean gall midge in 2018, and we've probably seen it around since maybe 2009, 2010. We have no samples to confirm, but what we had was a lot of issues show up in 2018, and so we sampled fields, got a hold of larvae, and then actually just a mile behind us here collected the first adults that were ever seen of the species. What's unique about soybean gall midge, first of all, we just don't find new species that are of agricultural importance very often, but it's also the first species to infest the base of the plant of soybean. Here in the US, it's like the rootworm of soybean. You know, everybody knows rootworm. It's underneath the soil surface, so it makes managing it very challenging because it's not up in the canopy and not easily managed. And it has a particular thing about soybeans that it needs. So if you pull up a plant and look at the base of the stem, it's very smooth, there's no cracks or fissures. When we get two trifoliates on the plant, they start to crack at the base of the plant. Nobody cared about that cracking prior to soybean gall midge showing up. Apparently that's really critical to soybean gall midge. It lays its eggs in those cracks. The eggs hatch, and then they start to feed within that part of the stem. In the stem, there's a lot of really crucial things to the soybean plant in order for it to grow. The outside of that stem area, that's kind of the fleshy part that's easy to peel off, that's phloem. That's what moves the nutrients up through the plant. The other one further in that's kind of hard, that you can barely pierce with your thumbnail, that's xylem, that's water. They feed on both of those, so they cut off the water transport and the nutrient transport in the plant. Under a heavy infestation, 21 days to kill those plants outright in the field. Typically what we see is 3 to 4 weeks later, we start finding dead and dying plants in the field.
We start inspecting those dead plants, and you can sometimes see some galls at the bottom of the stem. Pull up those plants, start breaking open that stem, and you should be able to see some larvae. The one big wow is that orange larva that you see there underneath the stem, and that's pretty much a telltale sign that you have soybean gall midge. But until you start seeing dead plants, it's going to be really hard to know.
We need to better understand this insect. And so a lot of what we've done is focused on adult emergence and timing, things that influence emergence, how they infest plants, how they interact with different stages of development of plants. And then a lot of that was done in conjunction with practices growers would be using. So planting date, for instance. Anytime we look at soybeans and we start from May 1 through May 31, general consensus is we lose yield every day in May with delayed plantings, 5/8 of a bushel on a good year. Soybean gall midge really disrupts that relationship. It almost makes it into a U-shape rather than just a falling yield loss relationship. So plant April 22nd, you get enough development out of those plants that they can withstand a little more feeding and injury maybe than those that are planted later. Plant May 2nd, May 12th, the planting dates we had that particular year. That's the worst time to plant. Plants hit just that V2 stage as we hit peak emergence. And so it's the hardest time to manage soybean gall midge, and then move later, May 22nd and June 1st, and you actually escape a lot of that main emergence curve. And as a result, those soybeans don't get hit as hard. We've piled seed treatments on top of that and saw partial effects. The trouble is we've never seen anything really consistent year after year produce a significant result.
We are throwing a lot of stuff at the wall trying to see if something sticks, right? From cultural practice to insecticide, seed treatments, soil applied insecticides, mowing. We're trying it all. I think right now the biggest strategy is rotate out of beans. Hilling is another thing. It's been very practical, but a lot of growers don't want to do that because it takes time. It's more cumbersome versus our more modern agronomic practices.
So we're finding a lot of techniques, I think, and good ways to find it in very low populations. We have an alert network, so that's kind of first step to both scouting and management. It's a phone call, text message, email system that they can sign up for through soybeangallmidge.org. It tells them through all the cage systems we have where gall midge is emerging, and then how long it emerges and when it starts emerging in this year's soybeans. It's probably not going anywhere. So we are looking at a perpetual problem.
This whole conversation can make it sound very dire, right? But we got the collaboration. We're trying to come up with new strategies overall, and we'll figure this out. We are doing research with the universities to try and see what is in our portfolio that will help growers get an edge on gall midge. Through that university collaboration is how we're going to find good strategies to help the grower.